30 years ago, at Ariel School in Ruwa, Zimbabwe, 62 children claimed to witness an event that would change their lives forever. On the morning of September 16, 1994, during recess, the children said they saw one or more silvery spacecraft descend from the sky and land in a field near their school. This was the beginning of a mystery that would resonate around the world, transforming an ordinary school day. Ruwa, where the event took place, was a small farming town southeast of Harare at the time. Ariel School was a private institution catering to children from elite families. This factor led to increased attention and greater credence given to the children's accounts. After recess, the children returned to their classrooms and told their teachers what they'd seen. However, the teachers dismissed it as a figment of their imagination, or a game. When the children went home, they recounted their experiences to their families, and the next day, many parents came to the school to speak with the teachers. The teachers were perplexed and questioned the children, but they stood by their claims of seeing aliens. At this point, the seriousness of the incident began to sink in, and the news spread rapidly. Even the Harare correspondent for ZBC and the BBC had interviewed people who reported seeing an unidentified flying object the previous night. The sighting was also announced on ZBC radio, catching the attention of the BBC's Zimbabwe correspondent, Tim Leach. Tim interviewed 64 children on camera. The children described the silver oval shape they saw, the slowly flying object, and the red, green, and yellow lights. The consistency in their details and the children's sincerity surprised even a seasoned journalist like Tim Leach. Tim visited the school on September 19th to interview students and staff. After investigating the incident, he said, "I can handle war zones, but I can't handle this." This was a striking statement from someone who reported on war-torn regions of Africa. The next person to investigate the children's claims was Cynthia Hind. Visiting the school on September 20th, 1994, Hind was an author and field investigator specializing in UFOs. She interviewed some of the children and asked them to draw what they had seen. The drawings were like something out of a horror movie and matched the children's descriptions perfectly. She also reported that all the children told the same story. In November, Harvard University psychiatry professor and Pulitzer Prize-winning author John Mack visited Ariel School to interview the children. The children shared more details about their experiences during the alleged alien encounter. Mack's expertise provided an opportunity to examine the psychological dimension of the event. Hind, Leach, and Mack interviewed 60 children between the ages of 6 and 12, and all of them said they saw at least one UFO. The children said they saw two small figures emerge from the craft, wearing tight black suits. The figures were about 1 meter tall, with thin, pale faces and two large black eyes. These physical descriptions bore similarities to accounts from other UFO witnesses worldwide. Most of the children ran away in fear, but some stayed and watched as the aliens approached. Everyone who saw the creature's big black eyes seemed trapped in a trance. Although it seemed like only a minute or two for the children in the trance, 15 minutes had actually passed. Suddenly, the school bell rang, signaling the end of recess. In their interviews with Mack, the children repeatedly mentioned the creature's big black eyes, saying they couldn't take their eyes off them. The creature or creatures communicated telepathically with the children about our environment and showed some children terrifying visions. Then they returned to the craft and disappeared. In Mack's interviews, a fifth grader described how he was warned about something that was going to happen and that there shouldn't be pollution. One child also stated that the world would end because we weren't taking good care of our planet. These statements coincide with the accounts of many people who claim to have been abducted and provide clues that the incident wasn't just a figment of the imagination. After World War II, especially after the atomic bomb in Hiroshima, there was an increase in UFO reports. Many military personnel serving at that time recounted seeing UFOs almost every week, even from the ocean. Unexplained sabotage occurred at many nuclear power plants worldwide. It was as if while humanity was trying to destroy itself, another group was trying to ensure our survival. This suggests that the Ariel School incident needs to be evaluated in a broader context. If an adult had shared this experience, there might have been some objections. But these are children. They don't have time to deal with conspiracy theories. It's hard to imagine anyone at that age coming up with a lie good enough to shock the whole world. Adults asked the children if what they saw was just a strange plane, but the children were sure that what they saw wasn't a plane. First of all, these were wealthy children, so they knew exactly what a traditional plane looked like because they traveled frequently. It was noted that the children's different ethnic backgrounds made it possible for them to have different ideas about what they saw, and not all of them thought they saw aliens. Some children thought the short-haired things were Tikoloshe, monsters from Shona and Ndebele mythology. This further complicates the cultural and psychological dimension of the event. Most critics are skeptical of the incident, saying the stories don't match up. But whether it's aliens or demons, it's clear that all 61 children have no doubt that they saw something that changed their lives forever. This suggests that instead of questioning the reality of the event, we should focus on understanding the depth of the children's experiences. There are other well-known reports of school children in large groups seeing strange UFOs. The Ariel School story is just one of them. In 1966, at a school in Melbourne, Australia, about 200 students and staff said a cigar-shaped UFO landed near the school. In 1967, a similar witness report came from a school in Miami, Florida. Also, in Britain, children said a UFO landed near their school in 1977, and some even said they saw aliens outside the craft. These reports indicate that the Ariel School incident wasn't an isolated event, and that similar experiences have occurred worldwide. For skeptics, the Ariel phenomenon is easily explainable. Firstly, Hind noted that in the days leading up to the school incident, there were numerous UFO sightings in the form of strange light shows. However, this light show was actually the re-entry of the Zenit 2 rocket from the launch of the Cosmos 2290 satellite. This could be a logical explanation for some of the observations, but doesn't explain all the details the children described. Another skeptical view was that what happened at Ariel School could have been a case of mass hysteria. Too much chaos, an unknown object, screams, cries. In all this potential chaos, memories can get mixed up, perceived as bigger than they were, and this can lead to false memories. False memories can result from constantly building on a faulty recollection. Although this is an argument used to question the reality of the children's experiences, the fact that more than 60 children had a similar experience at the same time and remained consistent in their statements even years later weakens the mass hysteria theory. False memory is different from simple memory errors. It's about being sure that the memory is accurate, that it really happened. It's not about forgetting or mixing up the details of what we experienced. It's about remembering things we never experienced at all. The scary thing about false memory is that almost everyone has experienced it. Although this raises the possibility that the children in the Ariel School incident may also have experienced false memories, the fact that so many children remembered similar details at the same time and even years later supports the reality of the event. Therefore, skeptics believe the children may have experienced mass hysteria, leading to false memories and subsequently the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect is a phenomenon where a large group of people remembers an event or detail in one way, but it actually happened differently. Could this have been what happened to the children? The answer to this question is still unclear. However, Ariel School wasn't the only school to have this experience, and as mentioned earlier, the statements of what the aliens telepathically told them coincide with what most abductees say. This provides clues that the incident wasn't just a figment of the imagination and requires deeper investigation. Even 30 years later, these children still stand by what they said when they were young. This shows how deeply the incident affected them and strengthened their belief in the reality of their experiences. After interviewing all the children and a few teachers, Matt gave a talk to the parents and told them he believed the children. This was an important step emphasizing that the incident should be taken seriously and investigated further. For a while, the story was in the global news and then was mostly forgotten, at least until Randall Nickerson brought the story back into the spotlight in 2007. He interviewed 43 of the students who experienced the incident that day. Some people were willing to talk, but others would only speak if they weren't filmed. After gathering enough information, he made a documentary about the incident called Ariel Phenomenon, It has a 93% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so I guess the documentary is good. This documentary brought the incident to a wider audience and reignited discussions. However, the story of the Ariel School UFO incident isn't perfect. Many students agreed on some details, but there were many differences and inconsistencies in the stories. Although this is an argument used to question the reality of the event, it could also show that the incident had different effects on different individuals, and each child interpreted the experience from their own perspective. Dr. Mack's involvement in the case was also problematic. He came to the school months after the incident. During this time, the students had talked to many people, given interviews to the media, and drawn many pictures of what they saw. That's quite a long time for the story to change. When Dr. Mack finally got there, he interviewed the children in small and large groups, and they just confirmed each other's stories. Even children who didn't see anything might have lied just to fit in. Also, Dr. Mack was known for asking leading questions. Before Dr. Mack introduced the idea that the aliens communicated telepathically, the children had never brought it up in previous interviews. The same goes for the telepathic message the children received that the Earth was in danger because of pollution. The children had never brought this up until Dr. Mack joined the investigation. All of this and more adds more credibility to the skeptics. Even a former student named Dylan came forward in the Netflix documentary Encounters to say he made a joke to get out of a language class and that the whole thing was a hoax he made up. But his single statement doesn't make much sense. Just 1 against 60 statements. And even though this happened at a school, there were also reports of UFO activity and lights in the sky from other parts of Zimbabwe and South Africa on the same day. And this kid claims he made the whole thing up, so he didn't have to learn a language. This claim indicates that the incident wasn't just a joke and was part of a larger phenomenon. Cynthia Hind was paying close attention to the numerous UFO sighting reports in South Africa. In September 1994, more and more people said they saw lights moving rapidly in the sky, and some even said they encountered aliens. When Hind heard about the incident at the school, she knew something big was happening. This shows that the Ariel School incident was part of a regional phenomenon and needs to be evaluated from a broader perspective. It seems much more likely that this kid saw something in 1994 and was so affected by it that he made up a hoax and made up the story that everyone else was lying. 60 students say they saw something, but none of the other students, not even the 2 people he said helped him, have come forward to confirm that he was faking it. This makes me believe the 60 students who say they saw something. These kids didn't know who Cynthia or Tim were when they were interviewed, so it's unlikely they would be pro-UFO just to get an autograph from Cynthia. Some even have troubled relationships with their families who ostracize them for talking nonsense about aliens. Remember, they come from wealthy families, which means they have their own rules about how to behave, eat, talk, and so on. And I'm sure talking about aliens wasn't acceptable. I believe they saw something that day. Even 30 years later, these children still stand by what they said when they were young. This shows how deep the impact of the incident was on them and how much it strengthened their belief in the reality of their experiences. The Ariel School UFO incident is still a mystery. There's no definitive proof, but the fact that more than 60 children had a similar experience at the same time is something to ponder. Maybe they really did encounter aliens. Maybe they experienced mass hysteria. Or maybe it really was a joke, as the kid named Dylan claimed. Whatever the truth may be, the Ariel School incident holds an important place in UFO history and continues to challenge people's imaginations. This incident makes us question whether we're alone in the universe and, if not, what the intentions of these visitors might be. Maybe one day the truth will come out, and the children at Ariel School will be recognized as some of the most important witnesses in history.